Are you ready, Stacy?
I am.
Okay. I will welcome to our county council meeting this evening. We will start with a prayer and a pledge. That'll be given by Member Ballantyne, and then we'll go from there.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful that we are able to meet tonight as a county council with the county. Grateful for the people that live in this county and for their importance in our lives. We ask a blessing as we talk about issues tonight, that we can do so with a spirit of understanding and resolve things that we need to resolve. We pray for those in our county that need blessings. We ask for protection in our emergency services people, our sheriff office, and our ambulance, and those protecting us. Again, we are thankful for all our blessings, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a reminder, if you have a cell phone or anything, if you need to take a phone call, if you'd step out, that would be greatly appreciated. Do we have any questions on any items on the agenda? If not, a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Member
Second.
Kilmer.
Second.
Member Cannon. Did you second?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Conflicts of interest with any members of the council on any of the agenda items? Seeing none, we'll continue. Public comment period. This is if you have any issues as far as with the county. For those of you that are here for the rezone, there will be a public hearing during that agenda item for your comments at that time. But any other comments you got as far as the county goes, the floor is now yours. If you would state your name when you come to the pulpit.
Nobody.
Okay, seeing none, a motion to go out of public comment.
So moved.
By Member Newton. Second.
Second.
Member Cannon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item number 1 was approval of the amended ordinance for the library. Getting with Jan, realized we could go ahead and pass it without having a public hearing on it. Are there any issues with the ordinance changes for the library board? If there's not, I'd take a motion on agenda item 1 for the amendments to the library board.
I move to approve the amendments to the library board.
Motion by Member Newton,
Second.
second by Member Kilmer. Any comments on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Jan, annual open meeting training.
In each of your packets, I sent you a little slideshow. I didn't think we needed to take a half hour going through that in the meeting, but I'm happy to address any questions you may have had. But I had just a couple of highlights that might be good for a refresher for all of us, as well as anyone from the public. When we hear about sunshine laws, that's another name for open and public meetings, meaning the government does their work in front of the people outside in the sunshine and not behind closed doors. And so that's just a public policy that I think is a good policy. I think the council has done a good job in years past of doing the people's business in front of the people and including the people as much as possible in public comment and sometimes public hearings when that's appropriate. One of our requirements is to make sure the public knows what business will be handled on a particular agenda. And so our goal in listing items on the agenda should be that someone reading the newspaper who sees an item knows whether or not they want to drive to town to participate in that item. And so I guess be as descriptive as possible when we list our agenda items. And seems like the phone calls end up in my office when someone will come along and say, I don't know how this ever passed. I had no idea the county took this action. It could have been a month ago, a year ago, or however long ago. And usually I have to just point them back to, well, it was noticed in the newspaper, it was noticed on the state website, and that the county complied with state code in getting that out there. Speaking of the state website, it's quite a handy tool to have. You could go there right now. In fact, I did this just recently. You can go to the state records notice website, and you could choose Morgan County, and you could put your email address in, and it will email you or send you a notification of any meetings within Morgan County. And so I think it's pretty handy to have that. It'll also attach a copy of the agenda for that meeting, and agendas need to be in place at least 24 hours before a meeting. I would suggest even sooner than that is better, because when we add it, sometimes we have to add items last minute because they're time sensitive, and I understand that. But sometimes the public just don't catch those last minute adds to the agenda. Sometimes they're just not aware of it, and so you can kind of sneak by them, and our goal is to not have anything sneak by the public. And like I said, I think we do a pretty good job of that. Just an example of that is you have a form of government committee that's a newly formed committee that is studying the optional forms of government, and they're going to make recommendations eventually as they do that. And so they have been noticing their meetings because they are a government board who works and does the people's business. And so they have been posting those notices, and it gives everyone in the public a chance to participate in those. The same should be really for all of our boards. I don't know if every airport meeting or every library board meeting, I don't know if those have been showing up because I just subscribed to it, but I'm going to check that a little closer. But any of our county boards should be posting those meetings, and it just takes just a click of a mouse to upload an agenda and give the public notice on that. So I would just recommend that you be aware of that in any committees that you sit on, that you just remind them of that.
Is that on the state website? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes. So at a minimum, we should submit it to the state website, and each year we submit our whole year's schedule of county council meetings. We submit that at the first of the year. But any of our committees really should be posting that to the state notice website. And I can help you find that if you don't have it handy, and I think it's also listed in the little slideshow I attached. Some things do require a public hearing. A lot of our land use items require public hearings, and we have one of those today on a rezone. The annual budget requires a public hearing. Some other things like the ordinance that we just passed today is updating some of the bylaws for the library board. That one doesn't necessarily need a public hearing. The council is always welcome to err on the side of having a public hearing. You can have a public hearing on anything you'd like if you choose to, but it's just not required. And so that's up to you when you post an agenda item on how you want to list that. But there is a difference between a public meeting and a public hearing. And so all of our meetings are public meetings, but not necessarily public hearings. So the public doesn't really have a chance to weigh in on, they don't have a right to weigh in on every single agenda item, other than during the public comment period they could stand up and kind of weigh in on an item right there. But each time you have an item, if it's not listed as a public hearing, you really don't need to open that up, and I would suggest you don't open that up for public comment unless it happens to be a public hearing. It would just keep more order to your meetings, and you do a great job of that. Once in a while, there are a few exceptions on when you can close meetings, and we're supposed to put those on the record of why we're closing the meeting. I had a phone call or two this week, and I think there's a couple items later in the evening that we'll be closing a meeting for, and you have to take a vote on that. But those are usually personnel issues where you're going to be talking about the character of an individual, potential land use, potential land purchases is another item, you can understand why you wouldn't want to be in an open meeting and say, we're thinking of buying this piece of land so we can put a building on it, and then someone from the public runs out and buys it ahead of you, so you've lost the chance to buy the land. And so those things can be done in closed meetings. We are always in one or two lawsuits for whatever reason. If we're ever talking about strategies or settlement offers or things related to lawsuits, that's another thing that we talk about in closed meetings. And so I do appreciate if you plan on asking for a closed meeting, I appreciate a phone call just so I can kind of be prepared to help you through that and not be surprised and not go into a closed meeting and be hit with something that I'm not aware of and I can't help you. I'm always willing to give you a legal opinion if you give me a little bit of notice. I would ask that you might see me not give you a very good answer if you ask me for a legal opinion in the county in an open meeting, because that could open the county up for liability potentially. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but it'd be better if you maybe just mention that to me so I could be a little more prepared rather than hit me cold in a meeting to say, well, would the county get sued if we do this? And then all our friends are here listening who might sue us. So give me a chance to research that, and I might be able to help you through that if that comes up in the future. So did anyone have any particular thoughts or concerns or questions as they read through the slide presentation? The slide presentation came from the state of Utah, I think through the Attorney General's office.
And I thought you took all this time to prepare that.
Thanks for the compliment. Happy to help anytime you might have a question with open or closed meetings. And overall, I really think Morgan County does a good job of that. We always try and keep both the doors open, so our meetings are literally open. If someone were to show up late and see the doors closed, they might feel intimidated to open the door and walk into the meeting. So that's why we always try and actually leave our doors wide open for an inviting atmosphere. So you do a really good job with that. So thank you.
So, Jan, can you help me understand which committee meetings have to be noticed on that website as well? Because I know the question came to me late last fall with the airport board. Are their meetings supposed to be posted?
Yeah. As I prepared for this and read and reread a few different sources, they're supposed to be. And even this form of government meeting, this group is just a temporary group, but they are doing the public's business, and the stakes are pretty high on what the recommendation may be at the end. And so we want to be hypersensitive to make sure that the public gets all the notice possible to attend their meetings and voice their concerns. And so really, airport, library, parks and rec, if we were going by the letter of the law, which we probably should, we should put those out there. And it's just, once you have your agenda, it's a click of a mouse and it's out there. It's just so easy to do.
Probably the Economic Development Partnership meeting should be out there.
In anything that's a subcommittee that any body that you have given authority to, who reports directly to you, even if they don't get to spend the money without your permission, probably. The economic development, that one's gray area. We can always err on the side of listening in the meetings, but that one might be a little gray.
Okay. The other question on that was, with the airport board, they have to be, where they're holding it on the airport, and not everyone can go on the airport, do they have to have that meeting someplace where everyone can have access to that meeting?
Yes, they should. I didn't realize they were restricting people from going to the meetings, but yes, public meeting has to be completely accessible to any person of the public who would want to go to that.
Okay.
So I think the airport could probably find a way to allow that if they want to keep holding their meetings there, or they'd maybe have to come here to another location.
I think, Jan, it's worth noting, too, when we're talking about transparency to the public in our open meetings here, that we have installed a camera now. Member Cannon used to stream our council meetings on her Facebook page, but now we've installed a camera, so we have a YouTube channel now where the council meetings will be available, so you don't have to go to any specific Facebook page, and so you don't have to have a Facebook account. So today's meeting is not live streamed. It will be uploaded tomorrow so that we can make sure the sound and everything, because this is our first round, works. But in the future, our meetings will be live streamed on that YouTube channel. So if you're unable to come, you can definitely watch those on YouTube.
With professional sound recording.
With professional sound and recording.
But we do appreciate Member Cannon for doing that, because that was very helpful. So thanks.
Thank my husband.
Okay, any other questions for Dan?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Amanda?
Not here.
She's not here?
It's here.
I'll take care of that.
Okay,
So this is our agreement every year. The only thing different in this agreement versus last year's is just the updated budget numbers, and those came right off of our 2019 budget. There's nothing proposed in this that's different than what was approved in the budget. I'll just note that we have a new,
extension agent?
yes, thank you, extension agent. And that person will take, they'll start their job here in the next couple of weeks. So the March 5th meeting, they will bring that new individual to introduce them to the council and let you know who that is. But this is just our annual renewal of our contract for that office. And like I said, there's nothing in there that wasn't approved in the budget. It's just the formal acceptance of that contract. So that's all it is.
Do they keep track of the number of residents that use that service?
I don't know if it's kept track like that, but they keep track of the number of people that are involved in the different activities they do, yes.
Okay.
So like 4-H, they can tell you exactly how many kids are involved in 4-H and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know whether they track anybody that comes in and gets information.
Actually grow tomatoes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if
I'd
that's
be really
tracked,
curious
but-
on that, really.
I just wondered. I knew we had the service. I just didn't know how widely it was used.
It's actually quite a bit in our county. We use it a lot.
I would expect.
We have a really, really big and successful 4-H program.
Good.
Any other questions on the agenda item on the agreement? Take a motion on the 2019 corporate agreement with USU.
Chair, I move that we approve the 2019 cooperative agreement between USU and Morgan County.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Member Valentine, second by Member McConnell. Questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 4, Lance.
Good evening. This is a rezoning request for 26.8 acres up Deep Creek Road, which is south of Morgan Valley Drive. Here's Morgan Valley Drive. Deep Creek Road comes up. It's a 14-acre parcel and a 13-acre parcel. They are requesting it to be rezoned from, well, the zoning is actually
R10.
R10 on one lot and MU160 on another. So these, the R10 lot is a conforming parcel. The MU160 parcel obviously is not. It's not 160 acres. The proposal is to rezone. If the rezone goes through, they will be combined into one parcel. The future land use map designates this area as Ranch Residential 10, meaning large lot, approximately 10-acre lots. It also has some natural resources and recreation, which would be, 160-acre lots is kind of the standard there. The majority of the proposed area would be in the R10 area. The agricultural district is a 20-acre minimum. It conforms with the general plan, future land use map, and policies. Let's see. And I really think that's the nuts and bolts of it. The approval standards for a rezone, this is part of a larger, another application as well for a conditional use permit. But the approval standards for the rezone request is it consistent with the general plan, harmonious with the character of the existing development in the vicinity. It's not going to adversely affect adjacent property owners. So the uses are actually staying somewhat similar by rezoning to A20. It will allow for some additional conditional use permit opportunities for the property. And that's been to the planning commission as well, for those conditional use permits. I don't take any questions.
Nancy, yeah, I'm sorry, I never asked you this before, I just clicked. Part of it, go back to your map. Keep going, the zoning map, that one.
That's the zoning.
No, back to, sorry,
Future land use?
that one. So, has he requested to change the future land use map also? The reason I'm asking is because we've had others come in, that's MU 160, and he wants to go to 820. And we've required everyone to request a change to the future land use map. Has that been addressed?
Well, no, if you read the standard for natural resources and recreation in the general plan, it's really referring to, and it says that lands in this category are managed primarily to maintain resource, recreation, ranching, grazing, open space uses. With the 820 zoning, although it's a smaller lot for about, I would guess it's maybe 7 acres, 8 acres, it's the general plan. It's not meant to be line by line specific, and so this is blurring that a little bit. We, generally speaking, if he was coming in for a big piece here, or someplace else in the natural resources, I think that would be a different issue. But where it's slightly bleeding into and it's an existing parcel, it's really coming into more conformance than the 10-acre parcel that's there now. So, or the 13-acre parcel that's there now. So staff felt that was not necessary given the general plan as a guiding document and a high level look at everything.
So are you looking at it similar to Golden Hills when they done their F1, MU 160? I mean, is that how we're kind of looking at
Well,
that? I just
Golden
think we
Hills
just need to stay consistent on what we're doing.
Sure. And the Golden Hills, it was natural resources and recreation, so it met the 160 acres. The rezone requirement was because the F1 zoning did not have single-family dwellings. So those the portions of those lots that were zoned F1, it just complicated that whole subdivision. So we had 16 lots there, and about 6 of them, if I remember correctly, would have been non-conforming because you couldn't allow a single-family home to be on there. So that rezone request was to make all those 16 lots conform to the zoning. This is going to conform to the zone. I mean,
Well, I just want to make sure we don't skip something.
yeah.
I have a question. Is our general plan mandatory or advisory? Typically, they're only advisory.
They're advisory unless you create an ordinance, and we've never created an ordinance to make it mandatory.
I would propose our consistency is if we want to approve a rezone, we don't require them to amend the future land use map. That seems like an extra step that's entirely unnecessary with respect to an advisory document.
Okay. That was the only question I have. Any other questions for staff? Okay.
Did you want to hear from the applicant next?
Yes, we're going to hear from the applicant next. Yep.
Good evening, I'm Doug Kersley. In 2014, well, in 2001, our family was blessed with a little girl you see sitting here, and it threw us into an arena that we never expected to be in, and that was dealing with people with special needs. In 2014, we built a horse riding academy with the idea of having a riding academy for people with special needs, and that's what we've done. And that was all permitted, and at the time that we got the permits, even we're told, no, you don't need conditional use permit, you need nothing, you're okay, just do it. So that's what we've lived under until this came up. But as we progressed, built the arena, built the clubhouse inside of it, and went through all the stuff there, church groups, scout groups, started finding out what we had, and we planned on that in the beginning, is we want to make it a place, we call it the Kersey ICANN Center. It's the ICANN Foundation, it's a nonprofit 501c3, but we want to make it a place where youth particularly could come and learn and increase their self-esteem, learn to take responsibility for their own life, learn to set and achieve goals, learn to communicate better with other people, and learn to give service back to the community. And our thought a lot was we'll give service back to the community. And so, and I think we have and are doing that with the program. And so, when it came to the attention of staff that in order to have people stay overnight, so we had mostly young women groups would come up there and have a girls' camp, and we have like 2 or 3 a month in the summer months, and then they would camp out in the pasture, basically. And so I always just thought this was something we did around here. I know our ward has had the father and sons outing that campsites similar to what we have, and others have too. In fact, we have one ward come up and use it, and our father and sons outing there. Sure, no problem. I never even thought that I had to be a campground or designated as a campground. But get to the staff and find out what we do, then we started the process. And in order for us to have a private campground, we need to be zoned A20, and which we were several years ago with the request to the county. We changed to R10, and so we're just asking to go back to A20 so that we're conforming with everything we're doing. We don't want to be doing anything we're not supposed to be doing, and so we just want it to be A20. The use of the road, and I'm sure in public hearing you'll hear this, is that the thousands of cars that drive up Deep Creek. And Deep Creek Road is a tough road. It's not safe the way it is right now, simply because the potholes, if you wanted to pass a car, somebody wants to pass you, somebody needs to pull over and let the other guy go, because if not, you're going to run into a pothole. So, it just needs to be fixed, but that's a separate issue from what we're talking about tonight. But the amount of cars that we have go up there during the week, currently we have 6 students that come up, 3 on Monday, 3 on Wednesday, and then I have 1 to 2 volunteer people that come to help me teach the kids to ride. And so, that's about 4 cars twice a week. Come up there, sometimes 5 or 6, but we're not talking tons of cars. The most traffic that we cause for Deep Creek would be when the girls' camp came, or we did a thing called Alma Camp up there. The state wanted to use it, so they came up, and there was one night when they had a ton of cars, and that one event had a lot of cars coming up and down the road, and through the planning commission, limited any groups we have, so not allow more than 20 cars to come up there. Just leave everything we have to be a 20-car thing, which is very, very rare that would ever happen. When we have a girls' camp come up there, they don't come in 4 or 5 cars. They stay for 3 days and go home. And so it's not like we're causing tons of traffic up and down the road. And anyway, that's in a nutshell. Probably a large nutshell, but it's a nutshell what we're doing. Is there any questions I can answer?
Yeah, any questions for the applicant?
So just to remind me, was it the conditional use permit, they limited it to 20, no more than 20 vehicles per event?
Per event, yes.
And then what were the limits? There was also a limit on the number of events you could have per month.
Yes, and we put a limit on ourselves of using it for 2 weeks a month, because we don't want it to be a full-time campground. We live there. And so we said 2 weeks, but one of the planning commission members said, well, let's make it 14 days. And so the planning commission approval was for 14 days. We'll still just limit it to the 2 months. 2 weeks, sorry.
2 weekends a month.
Yeah, basically 2 weeks out of the month. if we went with the 14 days, we could be using every single weekend and actually have more activities. We won't do that, and it's not our plan. And my wife and I started this, we said, no, we don't want this to be a full-time thing, and we just want to try to help the community more and do some good for the youth. Kids come up there, and we think we're doing good for the youth. We've had kids go home happier. I wish I had brought a picture. I do have it on my phone of a little boy that last night. That's not having my first experience with a kid falling off a horse, in 3 years. But this same kid, a year ago when he started with me, was so scared he couldn't even get on the horse hardly. And he was just shaking like this as he's getting on. He led the horse for him and everything else. And I have a picture of him 3 weeks ago now, riding the horse totally by himself at a lope, at a canter, jumping over a pole. And totally on his own. And that's pretty huge for a kid like that with autism that is scared to death to do anything. He's progressed that way. His mother had a parent-teacher. She told me this a week ago. We had a parent-teacher conference. And the teacher said, "What have you done to this kid? He's a totally different kid than he was a couple of years ago. He works at school. He's not a whiner. He's doing. What have you done?" And she looked at me. She said, "The only thing we've done different is he comes and sees you 1 hour a day, 1 hour a week." And sometimes I'm a little firm. I don't let the kid whine when he wants to whine, but it's really been good for him. We try to do that with all the kids, and we also do it for the youth groups.
Any more questions for the applicant?
I don't have a question. I do have a comment. I think that you mentioned the road, and the planning commission mentioned the road. I think, and I agree with you, it's a poor road and it should be addressed, but this is probably it should be a separate issue than what we're talking about tonight.
Okay. No other questions? Motion to, we're going to public comment. Public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Member Valentine. Member McConnell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's a public hearing. Anyone that would like to make comments pertaining to this rezone, if you come, state your name in the mic, we'd appreciate it.
You got to go off your list there.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Sorry, Ron.
And Chair,
Lance.
are you going to put any kind of time limit on it? I'm just bringing that up as an issue if you choose to, on a time limit on the comments per person. It's up to you.
Well, I have 4.
Okay.
I figure it would be too bad. Lance. You're first. Yep. No, sorry. Lance, Ty, John, and then Ron.
First off, I think that this, the approval is contrary.
Lance?
Oh, sorry. My name's Lance Crowther.
Okay.
I live up Deep Creek and have lived up Deep Creek since I was 3. And I think the approval is contrary to the general plan. Even this is R10. The light green's R10 and we want to go to R20. And I'll explain that here in a bit. But this is from the Planning Commission, the minutes, the Milton Area 2010 amendment. And if I talk too long, let me know and I'll sit down. But the Morgan County Planning Commission desires to promote the health, safety, prosperity, and general welfare of the residents of the Milton area, and to maintain Milton as a community where value, character, and integrity comes first. The Milton area offers scenic views, quiet enjoyment of property, and rural lifestyle. Therefore, this plan is intended to be used as a supplement to the Morgan County General Plan and future land use decisions. So I think the safety is a big concern. If everybody's going to say that the safety up Deep Creek is not safe, then it's a concern on a rezone and adding a conditional use permit, because we're just adding to an already problem. In the planning and zoning, 2 of them mentioned, one mentioned that he's heard and been warned about Deep Creek and never went up Deep Creek because he's been warned about it. And another one mentioned that they know it's not safe. And we just had another council member say that he knows it's not safe, and the applicants say he knows it's not safe. I think it's a general, and it's contrary to the plan because it's not safe, and it's kind of agreed upon around that it's not safe. In the Milton area plan, it says the objective on there is, as density increases, encourage improvements to the Milton area road facilities. Encourage safe road systems by planning for the existing and future multi-road usage. And therefore, we are in zoning, and all those changes need to be considered in adding density and adding people, traffic to the road. The main roads serve the Milton area, the Morgan Valley Drive, Stoddard Lane, Deep Creek Road. As densities in the Milton Village centers increase, road improvement programs should be planned in the county's capital improvement programs to provide for a safe transportation system in and through the Milton area. So if it's not safe, we shouldn't have it. The current design of Morgan Valley Drive, Stoddard Lane, Deep Creek Road currently pose safety hazards to automotive traffic, beyond vehicular traffic. Those roads are used by farmers with large farm equipment, ranchers with livestock, cyclists, pedestrians, and equestrians. There are also multiple school bus stops along these roads where children play as they wait to be picked up. As growth occurs, so will the use of the roads by multiple modes of traffic. Providing adequate safety measures on and along those roads should be addressed in the county's capital improvement programs, as well as considered in future policy decisions. Bikes over the last year have increased tremendously. I mean, for some reason they're going up the road. Livestock's always been an issue. There's always me or somebody else with a cow out. But all of these things need to be addressed, and if we just keep throwing stuff at not only Milton, not only Morgan, but you have the whole area. Milton is not, most of your village centers have an off-ramp and an on-ramp to the freeway. Milton's different. Milton, you have to go through another village center, and everything gets, so Milton doesn't have all that. So traffic is a big concern in Milton, and Deep Creek's even worse. This is April 13th, 2005 from the Planning Committee. It says, this might not be in the right place, but I'll read it anyway. It said Deep Creek Road currently does not have the customary 60-foot, this is not me either, it's from the Planning Committee. Deep Creek Road currently does not have the customary 66-foot right-of-way. In addition, some paved sections of the road are less than 24 feet with little or no ability to expand or extend them. The narrow road with only one way in and out persists as a safety issue. We recommend that before any additional building permits for new homes be granted, that the traffic study be performed to determine if Deep Creek Road is safe for more traffic. We further recommend that legal counsel be sought to determine if the county has or will have any liability for granting building permits or allowing further density in an area that does not meet county access requirements. The residents of the Milton area wish to maintain the rural atmosphere that exists. After inquiring at each meeting as to the promises made regarding paving the road, no claims have been made of any promises of further paving of Deep Creek. Anyway, so as we can see, it's even if you go back to 2003, in the Milton area plan, it was a huge issue, the traffic, and it's unsafe. I mean, this has been going, but it's been building on. So what was a little issue now is getting bigger and bigger. With houses going in and families, it's a concern. As we talked about here, the low density and high density, and he was mentioning on this. The area of low density, which is the green, light green, this area is intended to develop at no less than approximately 1 unit per 10 acres of land. Rezoning decisions should be based on whether the current infrastructure can handle the increased density, including the increased traffic load along Deep Creek. The low density land use design, anyway, it talks about the low density, and also the higher density, which is the MU 160. It says areas without specific land use designations are master planned to remain in their existing zoning classification with no zone change. These areas are deemed least appropriate for growth and development and should only be developed pursuant to their existing zoning densities. Now, I think, and maybe I'm not wrong, maybe this conditional use permit has to be gone to an MU or an A20 in order to go, but as far as the riding arena, I think that's an R10. So to do what they're doing, they can keep it R10. To move it to camping and bringing people up from who knows where, not even Morgan, or in the area that's going to really increase traffic, that's where we have to go to a different zoning. So on January 24th, 2010, the Planning Commission passed a positive recommendation to the County Council to rezone this. That's when this went from MU 160 to RR10. based on the frontage roads and the 5 findings. This is what they found it in order to pass it. This is what Member Toon moved to forward a positive recommendation to the County Council for a request by Doug Kersley to rezone approximately 14 acres from the MU-160 to the R10, based on the fact that the use of the lot is based upon frontage off of Deep Creek Road and the 5 following findings. The nature of the rezone is in conformance with the current and future land use area. The rezone is in conformance with the general plan. The parcel has adequate frontage and acreage for the RR10 zone. Allowing the rezone would bring the non-conforming property into conformance with zoning laws. Rezoning the property will not cause the potential for greater density because it is not large enough to be legally subdivided according to the current laws. But now if we move it to the A10 and then we bring up, we're going to greatly increase density or traffic up Deep Creek. The reason this was...
About 1 minute, Lance.
What's that?
1 minute
Oh,
left. You got 1 more minute. Go ahead.
okay. The lots, a long time ago, the lots were split. I'll just go to my bullet points. There's still a lot. I only had 2 more pages, but these are my bullet points. Basically, approval is contrary to the general plan. There's an inability of Deep Creek Road to carry additional traffic. Deep Creek Road currently possesses safety hazard to non-automobile traffic. It doesn't provide adequate safety measures that need to be addressed. Rezoning decisions should be based on whether the current infrastructure can handle it. The Kersley rezone moves it from A20 to R10. I'm going to skip a little bit here for you, but if you want more, I'll give you. The linchpin is the cup. If this passes, then we get the conditional use permit and the increased traffic goes there. Moving from an A10 R to A10 will bring that extra traffic up, and we have kids on that road too. You know, if we increase that traffic, then our kids aren't safe. The mitigation of the thing, you know, in a conditional use permit, the Deep Creek Road is insufficient. It's not large enough. There's no parking, and in conditional use permit, and to mitigate those bad effects, all they come up with is 20 cars in 20 vehicles at one time. That doesn't mean, I mean, I think that's open for, is it 20 buses? How many people is it? The conditional use permit should not be used because
Time.
one more second. Another thing is that the sewer wasn't done, the infrastructure wasn't done. If we're going to follow, we need to follow the rules. If, you know, when I called down Morgan Health or Morgan Weaver Health, and that's not done, in order to have a conditional use permit, the sewer has to be met, the water has to be met, and the safety should be met. I move that I would ask that this be either tabled or remanded until or have the county planning look at it again and get the things and in order so that it's not a safety hazard. And there we go.
Okay. Thank you. Ty. You got 6.5 minutes.
6.5, that was 30 minutes. Okay, my name's Ty Eldridge. I live 1 mile up Deep Creek. Just a quick point here. When Darren Stiegelmeyer tried to amend the future land use map for that chunk that's agricultural, that was denied, so he couldn't rezone RR10. So to the point, you know, you usually do require the future land use map amended before you rezone. In this case, you're taking MU-160, changing it to A20. I think you probably should do the amendment first. That's a big jump from MU-160 to A20. Anyway, my point is primarily on the roadway. During the planning and zoning meeting, Lance Evans mentioned that the county's position or their on the road is that it's a public road because of the county surveyor went and took a look at the road, and he said that it, you know, because of public use, it's a public road. But there's not a right-of-way over many of the parcels, including mine. So, you know, what I've done is looked at the code That's Utah Code 725104. And it's a highway dedicated and abandoned to the use of the public when it's been continuously used as a public thoroughfare for 10 years. But the burden of providing dedication under that statute is on the party asserting the dedication. In other words, you got to take that evidence to a judge. Unfortunately, the surveyor doesn't have the authority to grant that right away. Neither does the road maintenance supervisor or the county attorney. It's a judge. So today, I own about 10% of the paved road. There's no right-of-way. And when you keep granting building permits or, conditional use permits that increase the scope of that right-of-way, you're taking my property right away from me. But you should know this because this issue has been ongoing for years. 9 years ago during the Milton area plan and this actual rezone from MU 160 to RR 10, this same issue came up. So, the good news is we can resolve this issue once and for all. We can take that evidence to a judge and have them declare this a dedicated public road. Because as it is right now, it is not a dedicated public road. So, and part of a rezone is the roadways. Nobody disagrees that it's unsafe. I mean, everybody agrees that it's unsafe. So, the good news is the case law, you can read up on the case law. There's a pretty famous case that took place right here in Morgan County, Byram versus Thurman. It was a 3-year case that went to the Supreme Court. And there's a big difference in that case and all the other dedicated public use cases is they're going from a public road to public land or to another public road. With Deep Creek, there's 150 plus lots above what you can see here that's gated. There's no public access. And below that, there's about 20 homes. So anybody going up Deep Creek Road is not going to public. There's no public destination. I think even in a trial to determine if this is a public road or not, there's going to be a little bit of a hurdle there. Maybe not. You never know what a judge will do. But that's the procedure. That has to be done. I mean, this has gone on and on and on and forever. And it's, if you just keep kicking the can down the road and you know that you're stealing other property owners' rights. Because a right-of-way, I agree that everybody up there has a right-of-way, but it's not a public road. And the right-of-way, the scope of that right-of-way is determined by the use. And so if they have been accessing that ground for 20 plus years for agricultural use, they're limited to agricultural. When they want to start building the home up there, they're increasing the scope. And when this has not been resolved and the county keeps granting building permits, we're just making the problem worse and worse and worse. So let's get this road issue resolved because that's part of the problem. And then, maybe it's a public road, but spend a couple more million widening it and shoring up the sides of the banks that are eroding onto the road and repaving it, whatever you got to do. Or just, admit that it's not a public road because it hasn't been determined to be one by a judge. And let the landowners deal with this issue. But having said that, I'm going to grant temporary permissive use on all the paved roads on my property for the record while these matters are resolved. And I personally...
30 seconds.
What's that?
30 seconds.
I do personally support the Kearsley's riding a ring. I think they're doing great work up there. Thanks.
Thank you. John.
My name is John Dixon. I'm also a resident of the Deep Creek area. I live directly to the west of Doug. I'm incredibly familiar with his project because I've been involved in helping with a lot of the construction and even some of the activities of the projects that go on up there. I will agree with some of the gentlemen and state that the road's unsafe. Daryl, you even stated the road is unsafe, but I think we all agree that the road is a totally separate issue. So I would like to get back on track in regards to the rezoning, and I would like to tell you that what Doug is doing is a huge asset for the community, for the children of our community, and a lot of the people within Morgan itself. He lends his facility open and available to just about anybody. If they want to have a meeting, they can go up, we call it the clubhouse, and they can go in there and participate. Lance stated that the sewer and stuff was not properly done. Well, I don't know 100%, and I don't think he does either, but it was permitted, from my understanding, because again, I was involved in it. I personally watched him connect the sewer from a small little outbuilding into a septic system that again was all approved. So I am in absolute 100% favor of what he's doing and the rezoning. And in regards to the rest of the community and the people that live in Deep Creek, I would say that we need to focus on the road in a different agenda. We need to find out the proper source that we should go to. We should then form a coalition and go to those people and go down that proper track, because I don't think that this is the place to do it. You stated that earlier, so I'm going to go along with that format. But I would say that I think it's time that we all, as Deep Creek property owners, we need to do something about it, because it's a disaster. And everything that's being done is a Band-Aid, so I'll leave the road alone. I'm in favor of what Doug is doing. Any questions for me?
No, this is not a question, answer, comment. Thank you. Ron?
My name's Ron Russell, and my wife and I, for probably the last 5 or 6 years, we work with the special needs children in our community. There's a bunch of them from the whole county, and my wife also is on the leadership board of the Special Olympics. And I just want to say how great this has been for the special needs children of this community as we've watched what's happened to them. And the Kersleys allow us one night in the summer to have a camp. It's only a 3 or 4 hour camp, but it's been a great thing for this community and for these children, and the things that we've seen take place with these children. And where he has some of the special needs children come and take horse lessons has been, when Doug talked about that one boy, you ought to see some of the others. It is a fantastic thing. I don't know if any of you know Kristen. I don't even know Kristen's last name. Wixom. If you know Kristen, she always ducks her head like this, and she never looks at anyone. But she's been taking the lessons from Doug, and she'll lift her head up and look at Doug, that's an incredible thing, because she never does that. But I just want you to know that my wife and I, we support the Kersleys, and we appreciate, as we work with these special needs children, his willingness to let us use that facility free of charge, and we just appreciate it, and I wanted you to get to know that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. With that, most...
You going to let anybody else?
Nobody else on the paper.
How do I get on the paper?
Depends. You're nice. Go ahead.
My name is Darren Stegelmeyer, and I'm a neighbor on the other side of Doug Kersley to the east. And just a few things I wanted to really cut to the cut to the point on this is I think it's clear, once again, if we look at these different issues, the issue of the road is definitely an important issue. And I think that's one that really, as was mentioned, as if you want to say all of us friends that live up Deep Creek and neighbors that live up Deep Creek, that we share that common theme of what can we do to make the roads safer and how can we improve that. So I would love to be part of a group, and maybe it's Ty, Lance, myself, John, whoever else is a committee, and we can have public open meetings about that as well on how we can improve it. You know, some suggestions are, it would be great to just do some enforcement, especially on busy weekends. And if you look at the traffic, and the traffic that I believe is the most dangerous going up Deep Creek, it's not people taking their special needs children to Doug and Jolene's I-CAN Center or the Kersley I-CAN Center. It's people in what I call the $1 Million Parade on weekends, when they take their big trucks, their trailers, and all of their toys up to play on Deep Creek. Now, I'm not saying that he shouldn't be able to use their property on Deep Creek. I'm saying it'd be nice if there was enforcement along that to keep the road safer with that. Maybe we need to do some better signage on the corners, some better enforcement of the 25 miles an hour, maybe a radar sign. Maybe we take the little trailer up there that says, your speed is this. But I think we can address some of those safety issues and do so in a budgetary way that's a little bit better. So definitely from a safety, very important. From a zoning perspective, I wanted to just address a little bit. We rezoned the property that we live on to R10 so that we would conform with the required zoning. Most of the lots up and down, or most of the parcels up and down Deep Creek don't conform. There are many of them inside of this future land use map that are still zoned as MU 160. So the zoning is hodgepodge and is a mess and very non-conforming. I appreciate Doug coming in and saying, hey, I want to do what's in the code and follow the code to this. I am concerned, though, in that, are we enforcing the code equally across the county? Here, Doug's been asked to come in and get a conditional use permit, but do we have conditional use permits for every other campground in Morgan County? I would wonder, I don't know where to find those, and maybe I needed to do a little bit more research, but I don't believe that's the case with most campgrounds. And it may be that the campgrounds, if you want to say up Deep Creek ranches, should be considered, and that they would need to come and get a conditional use permit as well. So camping in general, what constitutes a private campground as it's written into the ordinance? In my opinion, as Doug talks about it, is that really a private campground, or is that a place for people to gather? And maybe what we should just do is give Doug, because his gatherings are almost all religious, he should just gather under a religious gathering and call it a Bible study. And then it's covered under the religious use in his current zoning. A quick comment about the zoning, and this is very appropriate to look at. The zoning for RR10, right there next to where Doug's at, that we're at, we did not modify the future land use map to be able to zone to that. So there's a portion of that RR10 that was zoned to RR10 without a modification of the land use map. So just to clarify, we had asked for it, but it was told to us that we weren't going to modify it, so we didn't modify it, and we rezoned so that our parcels would conform appropriately to be able to use them as we would like to. So my recommendation would be to really look at what's the intent. The intent is not to increase density. In fact, he's going from a higher density zoning to a lower density zoning. The intent that Doug has is to conform with the request to conform with ordinance, in this case the ordinance around having A20 for a private campground. There's an argument that maybe we shouldn't even call this a private campground. If we do, we should probably enforce private campgrounds on everybody in the county who gathers for a private campground. So that would be all of Deep Creek ranches. That would be many people up Line Creek. What constitutes a private campground, and are we going to have due process in the enforcement of that? Anyway, I appreciate your service on the council. I support what Doug's doing, and I think we should allow him to be able to zone and use his property as he would like to, once again with respect to the general plan and those neighbors around him. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Troy Butterfield. I support Doug and what he's doing. I've been up there with several youth groups like he has talked about, and it's just been wonderful to be able to have these youth experience outdoor life. But the biggest thing that I find rewarding is whether he requires us to do a service project when we're there, or if we just volunteer to do it. It's teaching a bunch of people about service and getting along and about being outdoors. So I support what the Curlews are doing. We were going to do some other things out there too to help people, and so just add my support to those who have already given. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening, my name is Brandon Anderson. I live just a couple lots down from the Kersleys. I just wanted to make a comment in regards to Deep Creek Road in general. We see a lot of traffic on that road. We have a couple of cabins up Deep Creek that are illegal. And over the past, well, how many years have we lived up there? 40 years or something. It's grown a little bit, a lot. And the road is very narrow in spots, and I'm mostly concerned about my children's safety and my family's safety. My parents live with me, their safety. Been into 4 or 5 different county councils that has changed over the years and discussed the safety of that road with everybody. And it goes in one ear and out the other. And I think anytime we look at more density, and in this case it's a less density, but it's just anytime we increase traffic on that road, it's a concern for me and my family. The current zoning up in the recreation lots isn't enforced. I've been into Mr. Evans' office and talked with him about that, and we're not enforcing the rules we have on the books. So I'd like to see more enforcement done. I'd like to see more enforcement with the traffic there. We don't get a lot of enforcement on Deep Creek. I called Chairman Haslam because he was the one I knew best, because I served on the planning commission with him, to get the potholes fixed in about October. We gave it all summer, never got the potholes on Deep Creek fixed until October. So the safety of the road is my main concern, and quite frankly, I'd like to see a moratorium on anything that increased traffic on Deep Creek Road until we get that road surveyed, taken off of our lots, stop paying taxes on it, turn it over to the county, and see something done with the road itself. I know that's an expensive route, but I would like to see that happen. So, yeah, safety is my biggest concern. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Motion to go to public hearing.
So moved.
Member Newton,
Second.
Member McConnell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any questions before we go to, well, I have one question for staff, but Lance? Like my question is, part of it's RR10, or both RR10. What's their reasoning for going to 820? Is it the campground or is it the riding arena?
The campground is not allowed use in R10. So it has to be rezoned to A20 in order to have a campground be a conditional use. The riding academy is a conditional use in R10. So it could have just that if it was just that, but we're talking about both those uses. So the private recreational campground is the best way we can figure out to define that, what's going on there.
Okay.
So that requires a rezone to A20 where it's a conditional use.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that. I guess I'm a little bit confused because Darren Stegelmeyer's right. We've got hundreds and hundreds of these all over the county. And are you saying that our ordinance requires a conditional use permit for every one of those? And they have to be in
I would have to
A20?
look at each one of them, I don't know. Some of them,
What makes this one different than anybody else that went down along East Canyon Creek or Weber River and put a campground in?
I don't know.
That they use for private recreational?
The way this came up was a complaint about the Riding Academy and large groups going out and using the property.
Okay?
So we looked at this one instance and said, okay, Riding Academy, that's clearly in the zoning ordinance. And then the closest use we could find, a private recreational campground, which is a conditional use in A20. So we looked at that and said, can't be doing this without a conditional use permit for the Riding Academy and without a rezone and a conditional use permit for the campground. We only looked at this issue.
And I know you didn't go out and look for anybody else that was doing this. I'm just saying, I'm trying to figure out why, sorry, because I've never heard of this being an issue in this county. And like I said, I know there are hundreds of them. And I don't know. I guess I need to go read that ordinance and see exactly what it's asking for there. Why it's saying that needs a conditional use permit, because I would be shocked if you had 10 conditional use permits on the books for any of those private campgrounds.
That's the use table that's in the A20 or the multi-use zones, going from F1 to RR1.
That's something that's been changed recently, or
for several years.
That's why I was just asking how long that one's been in effect.
I'd have to look to be sure, but
It's nothing we just did in these use tables we did in the last couple of years. Okay.
So then the question is, as people complain, we look at it and find any of the others, or?
that is correct. We handle everything when someone signs a complaint and turns it in, then we go and look at it and make a determination.
So, just a couple of points of clarification. You said recreational campground. Is that the same as a major campground, or is that a different category? And then, technically, this is a down zone, correct?
Correct.
And then with respect to the sewer comment and the water comment, I remember that being discussed at the Planning Commission. Does the staff have any concern with respect to the
We don't.
sewer
We did a little more
facilities?
checking and talked to the health department, the Weaver Morgan Health Department. They went out in 2014 and looked at the system, septic system for the uses and the size of the building. They also looked at the wells. They are not concerned at this time, is the short answer of what they've said. They said they don't see it. If the activity increases, then it might have to go from a private well to a public, which would require a bit, but with the restrictions that we put on it, it's probably okay with conditional use permit. That was their take.
Okay.
They monitor, they requested that the applicant continue to monitor the water and make sure the quality stays, but.
The reason I asked the question about major campgrounds, and when you sit down, if you can find that for me, I'd appreciate it. It says a major campground and a pertinent facility shall be for the private non-commercial use of individuals or nonprofit corporations, plus storage sheds and lodges with temporary group quarters. There aren't any temporary group quarters on this facility.
That's correct.
Okay. And then with respect to the road, it sounds like we're maintaining it. Did we do the potholes, albeit late in the year?
Not sure if we did or not, did we?
No, I don't think
They done some, but they didn't get them all.
Okay. I've driven the road a number of times. I've been up to the Kersley's camp. I think they provide a great service. And frankly, when you stand up and argue against it, it feels like you're arguing against truth, justice, and the American way, and I understand that. and the safety issues, this is where I kind of come down on the safety issues. I think that it is a poorly maintained road. If it's posted for 25, that may be too fast on some of those corners in particular. I've heard differing opinions on Section 72.5-104 and whether or not it's self-operative. or whether the county or jurisdiction has to go in and bring an action in order to establish a public road. But it sounds to me like this road's been in existence. I think the term used was forever. And so I think there likely are prescriptive rights that are associated with the roadway. And while, because this is a down zone, you're actually reducing potential density, and given the limitations, and this isn't the conditional use permit issue, but the reason I asked the questions about the limitations is because the amount of traffic being generated by that facility for camping in the summer, on average, is far less than the total traffic count that would be generated by a single-family residential home, which on average is 13 trips per day. And so I think I have a hard time saying, hey, you're last one in, therefore you don't get to use the road. I understand the safety issues, but I think the last one in theory, I'm not persuaded. I'll just say it that way.
If you want to, the use table calls out where we categorize this. The use that is closest to it is private park or recreational grounds or private recreational camps or resorts, including accessory supporting dwellings or dwelling complexes and commercial services uses which are owned and managed by the recreational facility to which it is accessory. So,
what definition was that?
Well, it's just in the use table.
Okay. But the defined use, was that recreational camps or major camps?
Private park or recreational grounds, private recreational camps.
Okay, thanks.
Where is our, I can never find it on Sterling. Where is our use table, Lance?
853.
853?
I believe that's the multi-use one. Pull it up. So this is the use table for...
Yes, that's what I want. Where is that?
That's
85A. Okay, there we go. And where are you putting this under?
Private park, recreational, well, I would think it's closest to private recreational camp.
Okay, and that's where you're saying that's not allowed in the RR20. Here.
That's correct. That's the fourth
So
column.
these are our zones.
So did we determine this is a public road? Is that?
I don't know the answer to that.
While we're looking, did we determine that this is a public road?
Well, that's one that's going to take some process.
This is on the list.
Okay.
Of the
So-
road list that we were talking about a couple of meetings
So
ago.
we don't know.
Well, okay, so technically, no, it's not, because the county has never initiated the open public road part of it and went in and claimed the road. As Ty was talking about, okay, if a landowner wants to allow them to deed it, they can, but if not, then as Ty said, they would end up in court, and the judge would have to say yay or nay, this is a public road.
Okay.
Historically, it has been treated as such and maintained, although poorly, as a public road,
Yeah.
but it is plowed all the way
The
up to
definition of
curb.
maintained is debatable at this
Yeah.
point, but so is mine. So, so do we have any indication if the majority of the traffic is going up to Deep Creek Estates, going through there? Because it seems like the traffic on this, I guess where I'm going on this is based on my notes. I haven't heard any complaints about what the Kearsleys are doing. I've heard complaints about the condition of the road. Okay, so to me, those are, I don't know if you can legally, and help me out here, attorneys, the condition of the road for a reason for...
You could probably argue it on a health, safety, and welfare issue if it's professionally deemed as unsafe. But quite frankly, there's us 7 here are not qualified to make that call.
Yeah, and I would think that how do you determine who is causing? Is it the Deep Creek Estates? Because I've heard that called Wild Wild West. So I'm not quite sure that this particular problem is being generated by this particular issue before us. So that would be my question: is even if we could do it that way, I'm not following how you can make that determination on this particular application if you know that there are other issues that are complicating this health and safety of the road. And I'm empathetic all day long on our road problems. So the list is expansive. I just am not sure if, even if we could determine that that was it, that you can apply this as a restrictive item on this particular request.
Well, it would seem to me that it would be an informal moratorium, saying we're not going to approve permits on Deep Creek Road. And I don't think that as a county we have the ability to act on informal moratoriums. I mean, we could pass a formal moratorium and it could last 6 months, but we can't there is no existing moratorium in place. Their application was filed before any moratorium went in place.
So it wouldn't affect this.
So it wouldn't affect this application anyway. I mean, look, there are a number of ways that you can move to get this to be a larger public road. You guys could get together and decide you want to dedicate the right-of-way. You could work on a special improvement district to do it. The county could participate in whatever way it decided it could or had the funding to help with. I mean, there's ways for that to be addressed, and it sounds to me like it should be addressed. But at the end of the day, there is no existing moratorium on building permits in the area. This is a downzoning that I think is consistent with the general plan, and the issues associated with the conditional use permit were heard and decided by the Planning Commission, which did impose certain restrictions on their use. So just as a zoning matter, I don't think that an informal moratorium would be an advisable way for the county to proceed.
What he said.
Are we ready for a motion?
That was my official declaration.
Sure.
Chair, I make the motion that we approve the Kearsley zoning map amendment application number 18.062, changing the zoning district on approximately 26.8 acres of land from RR10 and MU 160 to A20, based on the findings listed in the staff report dated January 24, 2019.
Second. Sorry.
Huh? Okay, motion by Member Swan, and I don't know you as a guy.
Member Cannon.
Okay, second by Member Cannon.
Thumb wrestled in for it. One.
Okay, questions on the motion?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and support it, but I'm still a little bit, it's nothing to do with the application. My argument is, I argue whether he even needs the application, or whether he could continue to do what he is doing without it. But I will support it because he's here and asking for it.
Lance, I have a question for you. Well, it comes back to Member Kilmer's question. Have you looked at the temporary use requirements?
No.
Well, and the reason being is if you go to temporary use, permit required. It talks about having these type of, in G, it talks about events, activities. I was looking to see if there was a timeline on the temporary use that would put it back into where Member Kilmer was talking about not needing to rezone.
I did not even go to temporary use. I didn't see it as a temporary use or a temporary request. It's an existing 20,000 square foot building.
Well, that's the riding arena, which is permitted in the
conforms
R10.
anyway.
It's the campground that requires the rezoning.
And my question was about the campground, not about the riding arena. So.
Okay. The definition of temporary use is a use established for a limited time with the intent to discontinue the use upon expiration of the time period authorized. I thought he wanted to continue to do it. It's not for...
Well, but the time period authorized is determined by the council. All right.
So at the risk of extending a conversation, I don't know that we need to have it. So in a temporary campground, like for example, in Deep Creek Ranches, if you've got people up there camping on pieces of property now, what are they using for septic? What's going on up there now? No, I'm not sure I do. But honestly, if we're talking about health, safety, and welfare, to me, that one's a bigger deal than the road. Just me, but on that, I'll say question on the motion.
What's that?
Question on the motion, Chair.
All right. Question on the motion. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion to approve the rezone from RR10 to A20 by Doug Kersley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Member Newton.
So Wasatch Integrated Waste, which is the waste area for Morgan County and several other counties, has representation from the county on their board, but they've asked for a resolution from the county council appointing a member to that board officially rather than just our document that shows the portfolio assignments. So that's what this is. It's the exact same thing that was done in the past with Ned when he was appointed to the board.
Chair, make a motion we appoint Member Newton to the Integrated Waste Board.
Does it need to be in I approve resolution number CR 19-02?
But my iPad's sitting on top of that. So.
Because I'll second it if it is.
It is. CR 1902.
Member by Member Kilmer, second by Member Cannon. Any questions on the motion?
So this isn't a question on the motion. This is just a point of clarification. We talked about our agendas giving people notice of what was being approved. When you say approving Michael Newton as a representative to their board, I got the packet, so I knew what board you were talking about, but the notice, the agenda wouldn't tell anybody that it was.
Yeah, when Roland asked if I'd read the packet, I said I had to. I had to find out where we were appointing Mike to.
The request was to the waste management, Wasatch Integrated Waste. So I apologize
Well, it
if
has
that
the
was
CR
not clear.
192, so if you went to CR 192, or 1902, they would take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is what I did.
Okay.
That's what we had to do.
No other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Give the audit committee the responsibility to take care of the letter we got from Jeremy Walker from the state auditor. I have a draft in front of me. I got an email from Jeremy today asking if we was going to respond. I told him we was going to talk about it today. So my question, we talked about a little bit of the issue you said with number
C.
3.
C.
C.
Yeah, 1C.
So my question is this. To get the state satisfied, does it make a difference if we amend this letter or send it in the way it is?
I would say that it does, because I don't want him to come back and say, you know full well what was wrong in it. I don't like the line, it is uncertain as to what the state auditor reviewed in making this recommendation, because I know exactly what they reviewed. And that one is the one that we agreed on, and we've agreed basically because there isn't a second person with eyes on that, and we either had to create the position, which we've done, or we needed to do the report that one of us reviewed, which is what's in here. The county will, by adding one additional procedure to the payroll process, which is to generate a report through the Cassell software containing payroll information that will be sent to the council for review each pay period. So we're acknowledging, but yet we're saying it is uncertain as to what the state auditor reviewed in making this recommendation. I don't like the wording on that one.
Well, what that was referring to is Kayla's conversation with the state auditor, when
Right.
he indicated that he didn't review anything. He was basing it on the look he received after he asked a question, not on review of any documentation or anything like that. So then it goes on to explain what we do in there, but that he should have looked up and found all this on his own. And yes, we're adding this report in there and going one step further, but I think we're meeting what they're asking for here. And that was a comment based on you didn't really look to see if we're doing this. You're just assuming we aren't because of the look you got back when you asked a question.
Right, but that's kind of hearsay, and while I agree that's probably what happened, there's a fine line in the response between a respectful response and which is what I asked. Do this as respectfully as possible while disagreeing on one. But what we said was, but we agree on C, because C, we knew why, and I've known all the way along. So it wasn't a question of whether or not we were doing it.
So are you saying to add to this?
No, I'm saying it is uncertain what the auditor reviewed in making this recommendation. I would take that line completely out and just start it with, the county does have procedures in place to help prevent or detect. And then instead of the county will do the Cassell software report, which I did go talk to Jeremy, that is, we just have to define what we want in that report, and he will create that report, so it's not hard to do. It just takes one of us sitting with him and defining the parameters. So we can leave that in if we would like, and then add the line about hiring. I'm not sure we want to hire until we tell HR services that.
So which line were you taking out, Tina?
The very first line, the very first sentence.
So I don't care if you take it out or leave it in. Makes absolutely no difference to me. I think it is justified because in a request from our contractor that prepares this stuff and does this work, in a request as to what was reviewed and why this was even a finding, the response was, well, I didn't review anything. I just got this kind of a blank stare when I asked the question, so I assumed none of this was being done. And I think that he needs to, if he's going to find it as a finding, he needs to go one step further and actually find out if that's really being done. We don't know what kind of questions were asked, if whoever he was asking was confused by the question. We don't know any of that. He needs to go a little bit further. And that's why I was fine with that being in there, because I think that too often these people in this level just throw their weight around, and they need to know that we're not going to just sit here and take it every time. So, but if you want to take it out, it doesn't change our response. It's just
I think we've done that. Just to your point, I think we've done that in the one where we disagree with the state auditor's conclusion in regards to monthly reconciliations, and that's what I would expect to see is we agree or we disagree. And just in an audit procedure, that's what you would do. You would say we agree or we disagree, and this is what we'll do to put it in. But so we're technically disagreeing by that second line, but we will add the other procedures to firm up.
What if we remove the first sentence and said, we disagree, the county does have procedures in place? So is this an audit protocol sort of thing?
Yeah,
We have to send this back.
Because the way we could say we disagree and take out the first sentence, replace it with that, or we could soften the first sentence a little and say the county is uncertain as to those materials or procedures reviewed in making this recommendation.
Yeah, we could do that.
And then it's not as direct to the state auditor, it's
right.
Just, it's cosmetic.
Because we've done it.
But
We've done it in one.
So.
But the point is, we're agreeing. We have to put something else in place because right now that final review, the problem is that there aren't two sets of eyes on that final issuance. It's not when it comes in the door, which is what we're stating. That, yeah, Stacy gathers it from all the department heads, and there is check to that part of the system because there are multiple eyes on that. It's the ability to go in and create a false employee and issue something. I'm not saying, and let's be clear, I'm not saying that that's what she's doing. It's the capability to be able to do it that they're looking at and having the concern with. So
now you're
we're agreeing with that.
What do we need to put on this paragraph to get Jeremy satisfied so we can get this to the state? That's my question.
We have to agree because if we disagree, they're going to come back and say, then show me your second set of eyes on who catches it if you set up a second employee or a bogus employee. And that's what they're looking at. And I know that from the other audit reports. So
you're saying the county does not disagree.
Right.
The county, in fact, agrees that we need an additional provision.
Yeah. We agreed, and we have set that up through the report and now through the setup of another person to do it because now Stacy.
So the first line is we agree, and then you're going to add at the bottom of the paragraph that we're looking at hiring an HR.
That we are hiring a second person to do payroll so that the auditor will be able to audit that. So technically, this report. Containing payroll information will be sent to the auditor. So it will go to Stacy for her review each pay period and not a council level. Yeah, we can send it to Stacy and we can send it to Sarah. But the point, if you hire someone to do payroll, then someone still has to check whether or not that person can set up a bogus employee and have someone being paid and it going direct deposited into
and I understand it. I'm saying, so we're going to put on the top of this, we agree.
We agree. And we can leave all of that there. Yeah.
Are you getting this down, Stacy? Because we got to change this and then you have to include all the members of the council on this letter.
You want me to change the letter?
I can change it if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm just saying, in our.
But it's gotta
deal,
be
it says
done.
We all have to sign. Or we all have to be notified.
If you've got it in Word, I can change it and I can
Response
add.
should be signed by all members of the county council or commission.
I just want to go on record as saying that I think Stacy has been doing this. I think when she has Leslie read it back to her, it's checked, and then Bonnie gets all this information last, and it's checked in the treasurer's office too. We're going to add the report, and then we're going to hire this individual, we're going to go so far above and beyond, it's not even funny, but to insinuate we have not been doing it is my argument.
And I agree. And I feel a little disrespected in somebody's insinuation that I gave a blank stare because I have my notes from that meeting right here, and his notes to me were, where is the double check on time cards? Where is the double check to make sure that I'm not giving Blaine a raise? Who's checking the raise? Who's checking that I'm not setting up a vacant employee? Are you checking my work? That was his question to me. So the thought that I gave him a blank stare pissing me off right now.
Well, he didn't, but Jeremy didn't say that. Kayla said that's what he said. So
Yeah.
if you've got notes,
These are my notes from
Yeah,
my
'cause-
meeting. Question number 23. Who's double checking the time cards? Who's making sure I'm not giving myself a raise?
So that's how I knew.
What was your response?
That we
Okay,
don't
let's
have-
we don't have anyone.
get back here. What are we doing with this paragraph? We agree, are we adding something on the bottom of it or not?
I think we can add another sentence over, the council has approved the hiring of a, what do we call them?
HR general.
HR generalist to process payroll. Freeing up the auditor to be able to review.
HR general?
Generalist.
Generalist.
General. Okay, did you get that, Stacy?
I'm writing it down right now.
Okay, are we all okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so will you rewrite that, put it on our county letterhead, and then, like I said, we need all of our signature lines. And I guess Jeremy would be the one to ask if we put that on a doc sign, huh?
That's how we did the last one.
So can you get that on a doc sign for us?
I can send it to Jeremy and have him put it on DocSign, yes.
Okay. We all right with that?
Yep.
Okay. I've had a request to go into closed session. Need a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Can we take just a brief recess before we?
No.
Do we have to state the reason why?
All right, take a 10-minute recess.
No, not for the recess, for the closed session.
Yeah, where are you going?
I don't care why you're going.
I wasn't feeling it.
That will be a first if we have to start giving reasons for that. I'll tell you that.
I think we need
Right.
I think we need to change tapes, and we need to make sure the system.
Valentine? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion to adjourn?
No!
What?
We got 3 things we got to fix on the minutes.
Oh, 11. Why did I get Joan Mortensen's mail?
So page 55,